So it seems as though the thirst for DMC5 Special Edition knows no bounds. A lot of you enjoyed the previous video that I made last week about the new rumours, and since then I've had plenty of you reach out and ask me, DNC, what exactly do you want in DMC5 Special Edition, which is exactly what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be going over a short list of the things I want to see Capcom include or perhaps alter for DMC5 Special Edition, and might I add, it's not going to be in any particular order before anybody pops off with their big brain, galaxy brain take. And I'm going to try and keep it to things that are somewhat feasible. You know, I'm not going to be like, hey, I want for Special Edition for them to include an entirely new campaign with 50 more missions and this, that, and everything, and I want the game to blow me, and you know what I mean. I want things to just be somewhat manageable for Capcom to sort of handle as somewhat of a side project, something that could be feasibly done within the span of a year, going off of what I know of game development. So before anybody roasts me for saying that things just aren't feasible, just keep that in mind. So, first things first, Turbo Mode. I definitely want Special Edition to include a Turbo Mode, and actually while we're on the topic of Turbo Mode, a lot of the things that are going to be in this list have somewhat been sorted out or done by the community, the modding community for this game, which is going to be a running theme throughout this list. But I do want Turbo Mode to be included. You know, more actions per minute, things tend to be more frenetic, more intense. You know, you can start pulling off insane things that look just a whole lot better because things seem to be a whole lot faster. And of course, for those people who are into the speed running, I guess the game does run 20% faster, so who knows? Maybe things will be faster with a Turbo Mode. It was there for 3 Special Edition, it was there for 4 Special Edition on console, and it should be there for 5 Special Edition. Not just on console, but on PC as well, where Turbo Mode is not currently a thing, unless you decide to mod the game. Next up on the list of big brain things I want in DMC5 Special Edition, give me a Divergence mode, and by that I do mean let me play every mission with whatever character I choose to pick. Now, in the base game, you were limited to certain characters and specific missions, most likely due to continuity reasons in the story. You know, it wouldn't make sense to have you play through the opening as Dante, but you know, let me play as who I want to play. There are some amazing encounters in DMC5 which you don't get to experience with other characters. You know, for example, the Elder Gedeon Knight boss. As V, that boss is just trash, but with Dante and Nero, absolutely amazing. And again, this is possible on PC via modding, so if people that don't have access to the source code can do this, it should be somewhat feasible to let the development team do it within a year. And might I add, in one of the actual trailers for DMC5, you could actually see Dante playing on the mission with the bridge, Mission 1 to be specific, which in the final game is exclusive to Nero, but considering that it was shown off in an official trailer by Capcom, surely it must have been something that was somewhat planned at the start, or maybe taken out, who knows, but they should definitely bring it back for the Special Edition. Next up, give me some different playable characters. This one is already a given, and it's probably on a lot of people's lists, especially since the Ladies' Night nonsense that went around 6 to 8 months ago, that rumour, remember that one? All our hearts and dreams were just broken. But Virgil, obviously everybody wants to play as Virgil. Who doesn't? You know, again, we've got a somewhat jank version working on PC, but just think about what Capcom could do if they decided to put their minds to it. And along with that, give me Lady and give me Trish. They were a thing in DMC4 Special Edition, where the budget for that re-release was thrown all at Virgil, and despite having almost nothing left over, it sooner managed to make Lady and Trish playable characters. So just think of what they'd be able to do if they gave the re-release, or the DLC, a decent budget. Another absolute doozy on this big brain list of DMC5 Special Edition features. I put down here missions, environments, and cutscenes, and by that I mean give us some new missions if possible. Have it as a somewhat of a side story. This could tie in quite well if Lady and Trish are playable. Show us what they were doing whilst Dante had disappeared. And in terms of environments, let us play through the rest of Redgrave City. I don't know, like we got an entire city but we only played through parts of it in specific missions, and then we're just ram-railed straight into the Clyfoth, the Demon Tree, where we spent a large majority of DMC5 in. You know, you've got this entire city, just let us run amok and do stupid things in it. And in regards to cutscenes, new cutscenes were already a thing in DMC3 SE, DMC4 SE, so by that sort of standard, I think there will be new cutscenes in DMC 5 Special Edition, even if they are book-ended cutscenes. If there are new missions, those would warrant new cutscenes as well. Next up, and one that pretty much anybody can kind of guess, new costumes. Give us some sort of alternate costumes that aren't just palette swaps. Don't just swap the colors and call it a day. The modern community has done absolutely amazing for porting over costumes from previous games or other games entirely. Surely Capcom can give us something here. I understand that they want to keep things up to a specific standard, which is why they've gone for the whole photogrammetry and scanning in real clothing, but that eats into people's budgets, and I'm almost certain they'd be able to produce something of just as good standard if they were to model it themselves, you know, instead of having to waste 10 grand on a fucking coat, which they've done for Nero and Dante. But, you know, might I add, those are some fantastic coats before somebody ats me in the chat and attempts to demolish me. Now let's move on to the gameplay, which is going to be fairly interesting because DMC 5 was a divisive game back when it dropped, so to speak, between the community. The gameplay for DMC 5 had a few changes which weren't necessarily conducive to stylish gameplay, and a lot of high-level players kind of took notice of this and weren't too pleased, and some of those who weren't as invested, so to speak, in the gameplay were just like, it is what it is, nothing we can do sort of thing. And I'm of course talking about reversals, inertia, and the delay that they introduced to some of the moves and mechanics in DMC 5. The chances are that if you've seen any DMC 4 combo mads, and even DMC 5 combo mads if they're on PC and modded, you'll likely have seen players encompass these mechanics into their combos and their gameplay. Long story short, Capcom sort of took these options out, and you know, when a game all about being as stylish as possible and, you know, being able to pick and choose whatever option you want to take on enemies, it doesn't necessarily make sense to remove specific features, and it's not a feature that the general public tend to really sort of care about. It won't necessarily impact your gameplay that much, but if you're going to be putting thousands of hours into the game, you tend to notice these sorts of things, and it'll be interesting actually to see what you guys think. If you guys want somebody on the channel who's more knowledgeable about this, I'd be happy to set up a video with somebody so they can kind of speak about this and people can get some sort of idea as to what all the hubbub was about when DMC 5 initially dropped. Another combat system in DMC 5 I want altered is the breaker system. Essentially, Nero's breakers are destroyable, or they're destructive in their nature, so once you use them, boom, they're done, they're spent. They're supposed to add a layer of strategy where you have to pick and choose what breakers you want to use in a specific order when you go into encounters and stuff, or at least it would if you couldn't just buy whatever arms you wanted and spam your way through missions, but that's besides the point. PC have had access to a breaker switcher system for a while, where breakers are mapped to the different inputs on the D-pad. This allows you to pick whatever breaker you want mid-combo. They are infinite, so that if you want to use the same arm more than once in a combo, or switch and then switch back, you're able to. Surely this should be a thing in Special Edition. Make it unlockable after beating Dante Must Die, whatever, but include it. You know, it's fantastic for being stylish. Having to limit your stylish play by having an arm that breaks or not being able to pick and choose the order of your arms isn't all that fun, and being able to precisely pick which arm you want at any given moment makes the gameplay feel a whole lot better. Another feature, which might be considered minor in the eyes of many, is a boss rush mode. It would be great to be able to tackle boss after boss after boss, instead of having to go through the bloody palace menu and pick which bosses you want to face and have to go back out. It would make things a whole lot better as if they were to streamline everything, and you can add an unlockable at the end of it, whatever you want. Make the boss rush insanely hard if you want to, but just add it as a mode. And last but certainly not least, bring back some legacy weapons, or bring in some new weapons. Now this one I'm a little bit iffy on because it's going to require a considerable amount of effort and work from the team to incorporate these weapons and to have all these new animations and to balance them and everything. But providing legacy weapons or even weapon skins would be fantastic. Being able to play with some of the previous weapons in the DMC franchise. Perhaps they can have their own side stories or missions to unlock them. There's a plethora of things that Capcom can implement with these weapons, but it would be fun, it would be cool to see some modern classics brought back. And again, this is a feature that PC has access to somewhat, with being able to port in the weapon skins or weapon models from previous games. And if they can do it, Capcom can definitely do it. And that brings us to the end of the video. I have assuredly missed something which I probably will include in the comments, but let me know down in the comments below what you think about this list. What do you want to see in DMC5 Special Edition? And within all of that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.